The stars twinkled silently in the vast darkness of space as Earth's first diplomatic convoy approached Centauri Prime. The massive station hung like a jewel against the backdrop of swirling nebulae, its crystalline spires reaching out into the void. Inside the lead ship, Admiral Han stood at the viewport, her weathered hands clasped behind her back as she watched their approach. 2 centuries of isolation had changed humanity. The discovery of faster-than-light travel had led to rapid expansion, colonization, and technological advancement. But it had also revealed they weren't alone. Far from it. The galaxy teemed with life, all united under the banner of the Galactic Council. The docking procedures went smoothly. Admiral Han led the Earth delegation through gleaming corridors filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. Some walked on multiple legs, others floated on anti-gravity fields, and a few seemed to phase in and out of reality itself. The diversity was breathtaking, yet Han couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The great hall of the council stretched before them, a cathedral-like space with towering columns that seemed to touch the stars themselves. Representatives from 1,000 worlds filled the chamber, their murmurs echoing off the vaulted ceiling. Earth's flag, the familiar blue and white with its circle of stars representing human colonies, was raised alongside countless others. High Counselor Revik stepped forward, his crystalline body catching the light and sending rainbow patterns dancing across the walls. "Today marks a historic moment," he announced, his voice resonating through the chamber. "Humanity has proven itself worthy of joining our ancient institution. Their resourcefulness, their determination, and their technological achievements have earned them a place among us." Admiral Han noticed something odd during the following reception. Conversations would die away when her delegation approached. Some species showed obvious disdain, turning away or making gestures she recognized as signs of disapproval. The Arcturian representative actually hissed when a human diplomat tried to initiate conversation. "They fear us," Lieutenant Sun whispered to her during a quiet moment. The young officer had always been perceptive. "They see how quickly we've advanced. 2 centuries ago, we barely had spaceflight. Now our ships rival theirs." Han dismissed these concerns, though they nagged at her. Earth's fleet was indeed impressive. The latest ships equipped with quantum drives, plasma weapons, and shield technology that matched or exceeded Council standards. But surely that was cause for respect, not fear. Days passed in a whirl of diplomatic meetings and cultural exchanges. Han found herself increasingly troubled by the undercurrents she sensed. The Galactic Council preached unity and cooperation, yet she saw factions forming, whispered conversations, and suspicious glances. One standard week after the ceremony, Lieutenant Sun rushed into her temporary quarters on the station. His usual calm demeanor was shattered. "Admiral, you need to see this." He projected a holographic display showing fleet movements near the Arcturus sector, dozens of Council warships moving in precise patterns. "The Council claims these are routine exercises," Sun explained, his fingers dancing over the controls to show different angles. "But I've analyzed the formations. These are battle maneuvers. They're practicing coordinated attacks." Han studied the projections, her military training ringing alarm bells. The formations were indeed tactical, designed to overwhelm planetary defenses and cut off escape routes. But who were they planning to attack? A message from Earth's colonial governor on New Mars added to her concerns. Council ships had been spotted conducting long-range scans of human settlements. Official requests for explanation were met with vague responses about standard security protocols. That evening, Han stood alone in her quarters, watching the endless stream of ships arriving and departing from Centauri Prime. Everything she'd worked for, the dream of humanity joining a peaceful galactic community, seemed to be unraveling. But concrete proof eluded her. Were they being paranoid? Had centuries of isolation made humans too suspicious? She composed a careful message to Earth's Defense Command, recommending increased alert status for the fleet but not outright mobilization. Better to be prepared while maintaining the appearance of trust. As she sent the transmission, encrypted through quantum channels, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. In the following days, more disturbing reports arrived. Council ships were massing near key transit points to human space. Trade agreements suddenly faced unexpected delays. Technical exchanges were postponed for unclear reasons. During a formal dinner, Han overheard a conversation between two alien diplomats who didn't realize her translator was active. The humans advanced too quickly, one said. They must be contained before they become a true threat. Lieutenant Sun's next report confirmed her worst fears. The battle formations had moved closer to human space, and more ships were joining them daily. The Council's explanation of routine exercises no longer held water. This was preparation for war. Han should have trusted her instincts from the start. But even as she prepared to warn Earth, she wondered if it was already too late. The shadows of betrayal had been there from the beginning, hidden behind diplomatic smiles and flowery speeches. Humanity had reached for the stars, only to find that their galactic neighbors had already decided their fate. The warnings found their way to her desk all night. Strange energy readings, unusual communications patterns, ships moving under stealth protocols. The Council was tightening a noose around humanity's neck, and soon they would pull it tight. Looking back, the signs had been obvious. Every smile had hidden teeth. Every handshake had concealed a blade. The grand ceremony of Earth's acceptance had been nothing but a carefully crafted deception. Soon, very soon, the true face of the Galactic Council would be revealed, and humanity would learn the hard way that the galaxy was not the welcoming place they had hoped for. It was a place of ancient powers and deep-seated fears, where the strong survived by keeping others weak. But the Council had miscalculated one crucial fact. Humans had always been at their most dangerous when cornered. Admiral Han's sleep cycle was interrupted by urgent alerts flooding her neural link. The Galactic Council had called an emergency session, but something was wrong. None of the human representatives had been notified through official channels. She rushed to the observation gallery overlooking the council chamber, arriving just as the session began. The massive room was packed with representatives from hundreds of species, but the human delegation's seats sat conspicuously empty. Councillor Merrick, his scaled form towering over the central podium, raised his arms for silence. Esteemed members of the Council, we gather today to address a grave threat to galactic peace. His voice boomed through the chamber, amplified by hidden speakers. The main holoscreen flickered to life, showing what appeared to be Earth warships attacking civilian vessels. Trading ships exploded in silent bursts of light, while Earth military vessels fired mercilessly. Han's blood ran cold. She knew instantly the footage was fake. The shit shown had design elements that Earth had never used. The engine configuration was wrong. The weapon ports were in impossible locations, and the movement patterns were nothing like Earth fleet protocols. These attacks occurred in the Proxima trading lanes. Merrick continued, his voice dripping with rehearsed outrage. Peaceful merchants slaughtered without warning or mercy. But this is only the beginning. More footage played, each clip more damning than the last. Earth ships supposedly attacking colony worlds, destroying communication relays, and engaging in acts of piracy. Each piece of evidence was clearly fabricated, but crafted well enough to convince those who wanted to believe. Han tried to enter the chamber but found her credentials had been revoked. She watched helplessly as the council representatives worked themselves into a frenzy of righteous anger. Some species she had considered allies remained silent, their fear of speaking out evident in their postures. "The humans have violated our most sacred laws," Merrick declared. "They have proven themselves unworthy of their place among civilized species. We must act now before their aggression spreads further." Lieutenant Sun appeared at Han's side, his face pale. "Admiral, our ships are detecting massive fleet movements. They're dropping out of hyperspace at every major colony world." The council vote was a formality. Species after species voted to contain the human threat. Those few who abstained were noted by Merrick's allies, their names added to hidden lists for future reference. Han was already running toward her ship when the first reports of attacks came in. The Council fleet had perfectly coordinated their strikes, emerging from hyperspace in overwhelming numbers around every human world simultaneously. New Mars colony under heavy bombardment. Proxima Beta has fallen. Eden Prime reports multiple orbital strikes. Terra Nova requests immediate assistance. The distress calls poured in faster than Han could process them. She reached the bridge of her flagship just as the massive viewing screen showed the first wave of Council ships appearing around Earth itself. "Get me Earth Defense Command," she ordered, but the quantum communications were being jammed. The Council had planned this well. They had studied human defenses and knew exactly how to cripple their response. The crew worked frantically at their stations as more reports flooded in. Colony after colony reported massive casualties. The Council ships were targeting military installations first, but civilian areas were hit just as hard. They weren't just trying to defeat humanity. They wanted to break them completely. Arcturus fleet reports heavy losses. They're being overwhelmed. Luna base has gone dark. Mars defense grid is failing. Han watched the tactical display with growing horror as red icons representing Council ships appeared in ever greater numbers. The carefully planned betrayal was executed with brutal efficiency. Humanity's worlds, so carefully built over 2 centuries, were being systematically destroyed. "Admiral," Lieutenant Sun's voice cracked with emotion, "we're receiving footage from the colonies." The images that appeared on screen would haunt Han forever. Cities burning under orbital bombardment, civilian ships trying to escape, only to be methodically shot down. Council ground forces landing to secure the ruined colonies. Some Earth ships fought back with desperate courage. The pride of the human fleet, the dreadnought Titan, took out 3 Council capital ships before being overwhelmed. The garrison at Proxima managed to evacuate thousands of civilians before their defenses failed, but it wasn't enough. It could never have been enough against such overwhelming force. Han's hands gripped the command rail until her knuckles turned white. The Council had played their game perfectly. Keep humanity distracted with diplomacy while positioning their forces for a knockout blow. Every friendly gesture, every trade agreement, every cultural exchange had been part of their deception. As she watched humanity's worlds burn, Han made a silent vow. The Council thought they knew humanity's strength, but they had only seen what humans wanted them to see. There were contingency plans, hidden facilities, experimental technologies that even their best spies hadn't discovered. The Council meant to break humanity's spirit with this overwhelming show of force. Instead, they had guaranteed that every surviving human would dedicate themselves to one goal: revenge. The galaxy would learn why Earth's ancient myths were filled with tales of warriors who fought against impossible odds. And won. "Send the Phoenix Protocol," Han ordered quietly. Across human space, hidden commands activated. Emergency evacuations began through secret channels. Military assets disappeared into prepared bolt holes. The Council would claim total victory, but they would soon learn they had only scattered the seeds of their own destruction. The betrayal was complete, but it was not the end. It was merely the beginning of humanity's true rise to power. The Council had sought to contain what they feared. Instead, they had ensured that their worst fears would become reality. Space lit up with thousands of weapons discharges as Earth's remaining fleet engaged the Council armada. The EFS Retribution's bridge shuddered under constant impacts, shield indicators flashing warnings across every display screen. Commander Park's desperate transmission from Mars cut through the chaos of battle. "They're everywhere. Mars colony is under heavy bombardment. We need reinforcement." Static consumed his final words as another Council battle group emerged from hyperspace, cutting off communications. Admiral Han's knuckles whitened as she gripped her command chair. The tactical display showed the grim reality. Council ships outnumbered Earth's fleet 10-1. But humanity wouldn't go quietly into the night. "All ships, battle formations," she ordered, her voice steady despite the situation. "We won't go down without a fight. Execute pattern Delta 7. Earth's remaining warships moved with precision, forming up into their practiced combat positions. The Council fleet pressed forward, expecting an easy victory. They were about to learn otherwise. "Launch all fighters," Han commanded. "Activate the prototype shields on my mark." The experimental technology was untested in full combat, but they had no choice now. Hundreds of Earth fighters poured from their carrier ships, their new quantum shields flickering to life. The Council ships fired, expecting to swat the smaller craft aside, but their energy weapons passed harmlessly through the quantum-shifted shields. The fighters struck back. What they lacked in size, they made up for in maneuverability and innovation. Council ships found their own shields failing as the Earth fighters exploited weaknesses no one had thought possible. For every human vessel destroyed, 3 Council ships erupted into balls of plasma. Lieutenant Kim's voice rang out from Tactical. "Admiral, the Artemis Squadron reports success. They've broken through the Council's lines and are evacuating civilians from Luna Base." It was the one advantage humanity had: intimate knowledge of their own solar system. Hidden hyperspace routes, mapped over centuries of exploration, allowed some ships to slip past the Council blockade, while the main fleet kept the enemy occupied. Precious cargo of human civilians and key military assets were being quietly moved to safety. The Retribution rocked with another impact. "Port shields at 30%. Someone called out. Han barely noticed, her attention fixed on the complex dance of ships across the tactical display. The Council forces were learning, adapting to human tactics. But they were also growing frustrated at the unexpected resistance. "Council battle group breaking formation," Lieutenant Kim reported. "They're trying to press through Sector 7. "Spring the trap," Han ordered with grim satisfaction. The Council ships charged forward, thinking they'd found a weakness in Earth's defense. Instead, they flew straight into a field of cloaked mines. Explosions rippled through their formation, turning proud warships into expanding clouds of debris. But the victory was short-lived. More Council ships emerged from hyperspace, seemingly endless in number. Earth's defenders fought with everything they had, using every trick and tactic they'd ever developed. The space around Earth became a graveyard of ships from both sides. Commander Park's last transmission had been right. They were everywhere. Mars colony fell silent. The Luna base evacuation was only partially complete when Council forces overwhelmed its defenses. One by one, humanity's outer colonies went dark. Yet in the chaos of battle, Admiral Han's real plan was working perfectly. The Council was so focused on their overwhelming victory that they failed to notice the small, stealth ships slipping away through hidden hyperspace routes. Ships carrying not just civilians, but scientists, engineers, military personnel, and vital equipment. Everything humanity would need to rebuild and eventually return. The Retribution's bridge erupted in sparks as another hit got through their failing shields. "Admiral," Lieutenant Kim called out, "the last evacuation transport reports success. Phase 1 is complete." Han allowed herself a small smile. The Council thought they were watching Earth's last stand. Instead, they were witnessing an elaborate deception. Let them think they'd won completely. Let them believe humanity was broken. "All ships," she transmitted on the emergency frequency, "initiate Operation Phoenix." Across the battlefield, Earth's remaining warships executed their final orders. Some made suicide runs at the largest Council vessels, taking them out in massive antimatter explosions. Others covered the escape of civilian ships. The Retribution itself led a final charge that scattered a Council battle group, creating a gap that dozens of hidden evacuation ships used to escape. Earth's cities burned. Its colonies fell. To the Council, it appeared to be a total victory. They would never know that the real victory belonged to humanity, not in the battles lost, but in the millions saved, the resources preserved, the knowledge protected. As the Retribution made its final jump to hyperspace, Admiral Han took one last look at the burning world behind her. The Council thought they had contained the human threat. Instead, they had just ensured that humanity would return stronger, more determined, and with a clear purpose, to make the Council regret their betrayal. "Plot course to Rendezvous Point Alpha," she ordered. "The real war hasn't even begun." The ship disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind a scene of apparent total defeat. But in the darkness between the stars, humanity's survivors were gathering. The Council would celebrate their victory, never suspecting that they had just created their worst nightmare, a humanity with nothing left to lose and everything to avenge. The massive hidden asteroid spun slowly in the darkness of uncharted space, its hollowed interior housing thousands of survivors. Deep within its armored shell, humanity's last fleet sheltered in sprawling docking bays, their hulls still bearing the scars of desperate battles. This was Phoenix Nest, one of several secret bases established years ago by paranoid military planners who had feared exactly this kind of betrayal. Admiral Han walked through the crowded corridors, noting how the survivors had already begun to adapt to their new underground existence. Hydroponics gardens were being expanded. Machine shops worked around the clock. Children attended makeshift schools, learning alongside combat training. Humanity refused to be broken. The command center occupied the heart of the asteroid. Han entered to find her surviving staff gathered around the holographic display table. The faces were fewer than before, but each survivor carried the determination of those they'd lost. "Status report," she ordered, taking her place at the head of the table. Lieutenant Kim stepped forward. "The Neptune shipyards are fully operational at the new location. We managed to save most of the advanced manufacturing equipment before the evacuation. Production of new vessels has already begun." "The Council patrols?" Han asked. "Still searching the wrong sectors," Commander Park replied, his arm now a cybernetic replacement after his near death on Mars. "Our stealth systems are holding. They have no idea we're here." The holographic display showed the current situation. Red dots indicated Council forces occupying human worlds. Blue dots showed the scattered hidden bases where humanity's survivors had gathered. Green lines traced the secret hyperspace routes connecting them, paths unknown to the Council, mapped through centuries of careful exploration. "The Council thinks they've won." Han addressed the gathered officers, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. "They believe Earth is broken. Their ships patrol our burning worlds, claiming victory. But they've only scattered us to the solar winds, and from those winds, we will return stronger." Chief Engineer Lee, her uniform still stained with engine grease, stepped forward. "We have a breakthrough to report, Admiral." She waved her hand, and the hologram changed to show technical schematics. "The quantum phase technology is ready. We've solved the power regulation problems." The officers leaned forward with intense interest. This was the technology they'd been developing in secret even before the betrayal, a way to shift ships partially out of normal spacetime, allowing them to pass through solid matter and energy shields as if they weren't there. "Full combat testing?" Han asked. "Completed last week," Lee confirmed. "Our ships can now strike without warning, passing through their strongest shields like they're not even there. The Council won't know what hit them." The mood in the room shifted from grim determination to contained excitement. This was the advantage they'd been waiting for. But before Han could respond, Lieutenant Kim's console lit up with urgent signals. "Admiral," he called out, "we're receiving a transmission. It's not from one of our bases." The room tensed. Had they been discovered? But Kim's next words changed everything. "It's being broadcast on frequencies we used during first contact, before joining the Council. The signature, it's alien, but not Council." "Put it through," Han ordered, "but maintain security protocols." The hologram shifted to show a being Han had never seen before, crystalline in structure like some Council races, but with a completely different configuration. When it spoke, the translation came through clearly. "To the survivors of Earth, we know you are out there. We are the Free Worlds Coalition, those who opposed the Council's decision, but were powerless to prevent it. We offer our aid to your resistance." The command staff exchanged looks of surprise and suspicion. Han studied the transmission carefully. "Verify their claims," she ordered. Hours of careful communication followed. The Coalition proved their sincerity by providing detailed intelligence on Council movements and weaknesses. They were a collection of races who had grown disillusioned with the Council's increasing authoritarianism, but had lacked the strength to oppose it openly. The Council's betrayal of Earth was the final straw, the Coalition representative explained. "Many of us face similar threats of containment if we step out of line. Your resistance gives us hope, and we can help you strike back." Han looked around the room at her officers. They had expected to fight alone, but now, "Begin verification of their intelligence," she ordered. "If it checks out, we may have just found the allies we need." The resistance had entered a new phase. Deep in their hidden bases, humanity rebuilt their strength. In secret shipyards, vessels took shape incorporating the new quantum phase technology, and now unexpected allies offered their support. The Council celebrated their victory, believing they had contained the human threat. They didn't realize they had created something far more dangerous, a humanity with nothing left to lose, armed with revolutionary technology, supported by their own disaffected members, and burning with the desire for justice. In the darkness between the stars, the resistance grew stronger. The time would come when the Council would learn the true cost of their betrayal. But for now, humanity prepared in secret, their determination hardened by loss, their spirit unbroken despite defeat. Admiral Han looked at the faces of her officers, survivors all, carrying the hopes of their species. "Send word to all bases," she ordered. "Operation Phoenix enters Phase 2. The real war is about to begin." The massive Council supply ship cruised through the supposedly secure shipping lane, its crew confident in their safety. Multiple escort vessels surrounded it, their sensors scanning for any sign of threat. They found nothing, until it was too late. In an instant, reality itself seemed to tear. The ESS Vengeance, one of Earth's new stealth destroyers, materialized directly inside the supply ship's shields. Its quantum phase drive hummed as it shifted back into normal space, weapons already firing. The Council ship never had a chance to raise an alarm. Precision strikes from the Vengeance's plasma cannons severed its spine, while focused beam weapons disabled its communications. The escort ships could only watch helplessly as their charge erupted into a silent explosion. Commander Kim stood on the Vengeance's bridge, watching the escorts scatter in panic. No distress signals got out, his tactical officer reported. "Clean kill." "Next target," Kim ordered. His ship phased out again, becoming invisible and intangible, leaving only burning wreckage as evidence they were ever there. This scene repeated itself across Council space. Supply convoys disappeared without trace. Military patrols found themselves ambushed by ships that could ignore their strongest defenses. Strategic bases were sabotaged from within, their security systems useless against phase-shifted infiltrators. The Council's mighty fleet found itself facing an invisible enemy that struck without warning and vanished before they could respond. Their shipping lanes, once considered completely secure, became dreaded death traps. Cargo ships began refusing routes through certain sectors. Insurance rates skyrocketed. In her command center deep within Phoenix Nest, Admiral Han reviewed the latest success reports. The guerrilla campaign was exceeding all expectations. The quantum phase technology had transformed their smaller fleet into an overwhelming advantage. Another Council member has reached out, Lieutenant Park reported, bringing up the diplomatic feeds. "The Arcturus Confederation wants to secretly support our cause." Han nodded with satisfaction. The Coalition's intelligence had proved invaluable, revealing which Council members were most likely to break ranks. Each successful strike encouraged more species to question the Council's authority. The truth was spreading, despite the Council's efforts to suppress it. Evidence of their betrayal leaked through encrypted channels. Records of the fabricated evidence, used to justify Earth's containment, found their way to public networks. Questions began to be asked in previously loyal systems. The Council responded with increasingly desperate measures. They doubled patrols, instituted martial law in key sectors, and launched witch hunts for suspected human sympathizers. But these actions only served to drive more of their members toward the resistance. Commander Kim's fleet struck again, this time hitting 3 targets simultaneously. Phase-shifted ships appeared inside Council facilities, human strike teams deployed directly through walls and shields. By the time defenses could respond, the attackers had vanished, leaving only destruction in their wake. The Council's unity is fracturing, reported their coalition allies. Member species are demanding explanations. Some are threatening to withdraw from military operations. Han studied the strategic display, watching as more systems shifted from red to green, indicating their secret support for Earth. The Council had sought to contain humanity, but their actions had instead sparked a revolution that threatened their own power. Reports kept flowing in. Council ships disappeared in transit. Critical supplies failed to reach their destinations. Military bases found their defense systems mysteriously offline. The mighty Galactic Council, which had ruled space for millennia, was being bled by 1,000 invisible cuts. The resistance grew stronger with each victory. The coalition provided new technologies that complemented Earth's innovations. Hidden shipyards worked at full capacity, producing more vessels equipped with quantum phase drives. Training centers prepared crews to use abilities that the Council had never dreamed possible. In her private moments, Han allowed herself to feel satisfaction at how thoroughly they had turned the tables. The Council had expected humans to be easily crushed. Instead, they had created an enemy that could strike anywhere, at any time, without warning or mercy. New intelligence from the coalition. Lieutenant Park announced. The Council is calling an emergency session. There's growing pressure to reconsider their position on Earth. Han smiled grimly. The Council's betrayal had taught humanity harsh lessons about trust and power. They would never again be naive enough to accept empty promises or false friendship. The time for diplomacy had passed. Now was the time for justice. Another report arrived. 3 more Council member species had secretly reached out to pledge their support. The tide wasn't just turning, it was becoming a flood. Soon, the Council would face not just human vengeance, but the accumulated resentment of all those they had oppressed over the centuries. Prepare the fleet for Phase 3, Han ordered. The time has come to show the Council exactly what they've created. Throughout hidden bases and secret shipyards, humanity prepared for their next move. The silent strikes had served their purpose, shattering the Council's confidence and unity. Now it was time to deliver the killing blow. The Council had sought to break humanity's spirit. Instead, they had forged it into something stronger and more dangerous than they could have imagined. As their power crumbled from within, they would learn the true cost of their betrayal. The resistance was no longer just human. It had become a movement that threatened to reshape the galaxy itself. And it all began because the Council had made one fatal mistake. They had given humanity nothing left to lose. The massive fleet gathered in the darkness of deep space, hidden from all sensors. Hundreds of ships from Earth's resistance floated alongside vessels from their coalition allies. Each craft carried crews who had lost homes, families, and worlds to the Council's betrayal. Today, they would make things right. Admiral Han stood on the bridge of the flagship Retribution, studying the tactical displays showing their gathered forces. Years of preparation, countless silent strikes, and careful planning had led to this moment. The Council had grown weak, fractured by internal disputes and the constant pressure of guerrilla attacks. All ships, this is Admiral Han. She broadcast across the secure quantum network. Operation Reckoning begins now. The combined fleet jumped into hyperspace with perfect coordination. When they emerged, the crystalline spires of Centauri Prime filled their view screens. The Council's capital world, once a symbol of their oppression, now stood exposed before them. The Council's defensive fleet reacted with surprise and confusion. They had grown complacent, believing their capital world was beyond reach. Now they faced not just human ships, but vessels from dozens of formerly loyal species who had joined the resistance. Launch all fighters, Han ordered. Begin Phase 1. Squadrons of Earth's quantum phase fighters streamed from their carriers. The small craft phased through the Council's shield network as if it didn't exist, their weapons finding vital targets with surgical precision. Defense platforms exploded in silent bursts of light. The Council fleet tried to respond, but their formation was chaotic. Years of guerrilla warfare had taught the resistance exactly how to exploit their weaknesses. Coalition ships struck from multiple vectors, using tactics that the Council had never prepared for. Lieutenant Yoon monitored the battle from his tactical station. "Enemy fleet is in disarray," he reported. "They're trying to coordinate a response, but their command structure is breaking down." The Council's mighty warships found themselves trapped between multiple attack waves. Earth vessels phased through their shields to deliver devastating close-range strikes. Coalition ships exploited the gaps this created, their own advanced weapons adding to the destruction. "Admiral," Commander Kim called out, "we're detecting mass evacuations from the Council chambers. They're trying to escape." Han's expression hardened. "Not this time." "Deploy the blockade units." Hidden resistance ships decloaked around Centauri Prime's escape vectors, cutting off all retreat. The Council members who had orchestrated Earth's destruction would face justice for their actions. The battle reached its peak as the resistance fleet pressed their advantage. Council ships exploded or surrendered one by one. Their vaunted defenses, which had protected them for centuries, proved useless against the combined might of those they had wronged. "Admiral," Yoon called out, excitement in his voice, "their central defense grid is down. The Council chamber is exposed." The massive crystalline structure that housed the Galactic Council stood vulnerable. Its shields had fallen, its defenses neutralized by precise strikes. The seat of power that had ordered humanity's destruction was now at their mercy. Han surveyed the tactical display, watching as the last pockets of resistance crumbled. The Council fleet, once the most powerful force in the galaxy, had been shattered. Their arrogance had been their undoing. They never imagined their victims could unite against them. "Begin landing operations," she ordered. "Secure the Council chambers. I want their leaders taken alive to face trial for their crimes." Strike teams phased directly into the Council building, bypassing remaining defenses. Coalition forces secured the surrounding areas. The resistance had planned this operation for years, and every element worked with precision. Throughout the city, citizens watched in shock as their leader's power crumbled. Many had already learned the truth about the Council's deception through leaked evidence. Now they witnessed the consequences of that betrayal firsthand. Reports flowed in from across Council space. Other resistance forces struck simultaneously at key military installations and government centers. The Council's authority, already weakened by years of guerrilla warfare, collapsed entirely. "Admiral," Yoon reported, "we've secured the main chamber. Council leadership is in custody. No casualties." Han nodded with grim satisfaction. The Council had tried to destroy humanity, believing they could simply erase an entire species from the galaxy. Instead, they had created the instrument of their own destruction. The Battle of Centauri Prime marked more than just a military victory. It represented the end of an era of oppression and the beginning of something new. The resistance that had started with Earth's survival had grown into a movement that would reshape the galaxy. As her forces secured the planet, Han reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The Council's betrayal had taught humanity harsh lessons about power and justice. Those lessons would guide the formation of whatever came next. The turning point had arrived. The galaxy would never be the same. The broadcast began simultaneously across every inhabited world in known space. Billions of beings watched as decades of Council secrets were exposed to the light. The evidence was undeniable. Records of secret meetings, classified orders, and hidden communications revealing a pattern of corruption that stretched back centuries. On countless worlds, public spaces filled with crowds watching the transmissions. They saw proof of how the Council had manipulated species against each other, fabricated evidence to justify containment of rising powers, and orchestrated the attempted destruction of humanity. The truth hit like a physical force, shattering centuries of carefully crafted lies. Admiral Han watched from the captured council chambers as the revelations sparked action across the galaxy. Security forces, finally seeing the depth of corruption they had served, turned against their former masters. Council loyalists found themselves arrested by their own troops as public outrage swept through every system. The data burst is complete, Lieutenant Yoon reported. Every colony, every outpost, every settlement has received the full archive. There's no way for them to suppress this anymore. The reaction was swift and decisive. Populations that had lived under council authority for generations rose up against their corrupt leaders. The Resistance's victory at Centauride Prime had broken the council's power, but these revelations destroyed their legitimacy forever. Former council leaders were brought to justice one by one. Some tried to flee but found nowhere to hide in a galaxy united against them. Others attempted to deny their crimes, only to face overwhelming evidence of their guilt. A few accepted responsibility, hoping for mercy they had never shown to others. In the heart of Centauride Prime, representatives from hundreds of species gathered to forge something new. The Galactic Alliance would replace the old council, built on principles of true cooperation and mutual respect rather than dominance and fear. Admiral Han stood at the podium where corrupt council leaders had once ordered humanity's destruction. Now she addressed a very different assembly, one that included humans as equals among the stars. "We did not want this war," she declared, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. "We sought only peaceful cooperation among the stars, but when betrayal forced us to fight, we proved that no power can break the human spirit. We have earned our place among the stars, not through treachery, but through strength, resilience, and the willingness to fight for justice." The Earth fleet maintained its vigilance as the new order took shape. Their quantum phase technology, once a desperate advantage against overwhelming odds, now served as a guarantee of peace. No species would again dare to attempt what the Council had tried. Recovery began across former Council space. Hidden human colonies emerged from the shadows, their populations finally free to rebuild in the open. Coalition worlds that had secretly aided the Resistance now openly celebrated their part in bringing change to the galaxy. A new era of true cooperation dawned. The Galactic Alliance established principles that would prevent any repeat of the Council's abuses. Power was distributed, decisions made transparently, and all species given equal voice in shaping their shared future. Humanity's role in the Alliance reflected the lessons they had learned. Their experience had taught them the importance of both strength and wisdom, of being powerful enough to defend themselves while remaining committed to justice and cooperation. The former council chambers, once a place of secret plots and betrayal, transformed into a center of open dialogue and collaboration. Species that had been manipulated into fearing each other now worked together, sharing knowledge and resources to build something better than what had come before. Admiral Han visited Earth one last time before taking up her new duties in the Alliance leadership. She stood in the rebuilt streets of her hometown, watching children play beneath a sky no longer darkened by war. Humanity had been tested in fire and emerged stronger than anyone could have imagined. The galaxy had changed forever. The Council's betrayal, meant to contain humanity, had instead unleashed a force for positive change throughout known space. A new chapter in galactic history had begun, one written not in the language of power and fear, but in the shared stories of those who had dared to fight for something better. As ships from 100 worlds moved peacefully through the stars, their crews no longer divided by artificial barriers of suspicion and hate, the galaxy settled into its new reality. The old order was gone, replaced by something stronger. An alliance forged in adversity and dedicated to ensuring such betrayal would never happen again. Humanity had not just survived, they had helped create something new. And in doing so, they had proved that even the darkest betrayal could lead to the brightest dawn. The end.